All right, welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're tackling what I like to call the ultimate dual edge of our current tech landscape. We're living in this wild moment where incredible, almost unimaginably huge financial opportunities are literally colliding head-on with some incredibly dangerous digital risks. Today we're unpacking a briefing that proves just how fast this world is moving, from institutional money making massive, sweeping moves to AI totally taking over our wallets, and even the silent malware lurking right beneath the surface of the devices we use every single day. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Crypto's massive return. 2. The AI payment revolution. 3. Critical security threats. 4. Gemini's weird eavesdropping bug. And 5. An Ethereum versus Solana showdown. All right, starting with part 1. Crypto's $221 million return. Now, I really want you to look at this number. $221 million. We just came out of a notably dark, honestly pretty tense period of continuous market outflows, mostly driven by a weak U.S. labor market. But then, American investors basically decided to stop running. On July 2nd, anticipating a Federal Reserve rate cut, we saw this absolute massive influx of fresh capital pour directly into U.S. Bitcoin ETFs. This represents the absolute largest capital inflow to Bitcoin funds we have seen since early May. When ETFs see numbers like this, it's a glaring signal. It tells us major financial players and institutional investors aren't just dabbling anymore. They are planning a serious comeback and bringing real, heavy liquidity back into the ecosystem. To really grasp the drama of this market reversal, let's walk through this timeline together. It's kind of like a movie script. Starting June 10th, we saw a continuous, brutal outflow, totaling $2.7 billion straight through to July 1st, just bleeding cash. But then, July 2nd hits, and boom, a $221 million trend reversal, pushing Bitcoin all the way back up to hit $62,000 by July 3rd. What's absolutely fascinating here is that the market's fear and greed index had been sitting right in the extreme fear zone. And you know how it goes. While amateurs panic during extreme fear, the professional traders, they look at this exact timeline and see it as a prime buying opportunity. Moving right along to Section 2, the AI payment revolution. So we all know AI can chat with us, it can generate cool images, write Python code, all that good stuff. But the news story being written right, literally as we speak, robots actively managing our money. Let's clearly define what we're actually talking about here. An AI agent in finance is an artificial intelligence system capable of independently executing financial transactions, connecting to your digital wallets, and finalizing payments completely without human intervention. Platforms like CC Payment and a bunch of new startups have developed APIs that allow these agents to handle online subscriptions, automated content purchases, and even cross-border international payments entirely on their own. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how fast this tech is being adopted. Look at this projected data for 2026. Over 140 million automated payments, totaling roughly $43 million, are expected to be executed via AI and blockchain systems. This isn't just some theoretical white paper stuff. This is the sheer scale of AI financial independence unfolding right now. We're standing on the threshold of a huge transformation in how everyday transactions are managed globally. But of course, this incredible innovation brings up a massive, absolutely crucial legal question. When an AI independently makes a payment mistake, who holds the bag? If an incorrect transaction fires off, who is legally accountable? The reality is, our current laws simply aren't written for this yet. To figure this whole shebang out, pioneer countries like Singapore and Switzerland are currently leading the way by testing out these regulatory sandboxes. They're basically letting fintech companies test these AI payments in strictly controlled environments. One major proposed solution we're seeing is a two-step verification system. So the AI initiates the transaction, but a human still has to give that final click of confirmation. Which brings us to Section 3, Critical Security Threats. All right, it is time for a sharp reality check, because as amazing as automated AI payments and massive capital inflows are, the very systems powering these innovations are currently under severe threat from some highly sophisticated vulnerabilities. First up on our radar is Avalon. Avalon is this new, incredibly complex modular malware framework. Think of it like the ultimate hacker's toolbox. Notice the attack chain here. It starts with a multi-stage phishing email. If the victim clicks, boom, they download a fake loader. Avalon then quietly sits there and begins credential harvesting, scraping browser passwords, credit cards, and authentication tokens. Finally, depending on the target, the attacker can just flip a switch and activate the Crown X ransomware module to lock down the entire network. And honestly, the most terrifying part? This highly capable malware is being sold right now on the dark web for just $500 to $2,000. It makes enterprise-grade hacking accessible even to total novice cybercriminals. And hey, if you thought Linux was completely safe, we really need to talk about bad Apple. Tracta's CVE 2026-46242. This is a critical vulnerability right at the heart of Linux's I/O event management system. Actually, scratch that. It's not just a bug. It's a kernel memory flaw that essentially acts as a fake key. It allows an ordinary user with zero special permissions to entirely bypass security and gain full root access. And this doesn't just affect huge Linux server farms. It threatens desktops and literally millions of Android devices worldwide. Your security is absolutely paramount, so here are the actionable steps you need to take right now to protect yourself. First, immediately update your OS to the latest version. For Android users, you are unfortunately waiting on manufacturer patches, so in the meantime, strictly avoid any unknown apps outside of the official Google Play Store. For server managers tuning in, upgrade your kernel immediately and check your Linux logs for any sudden privilege escalation. I cannot stress the urgency here enough, because Hacker News experts are warning that exploit code for bad Apple is very likely going to be dropped in the underground space any day now. Okay, taking a breath, let's move to Section 4, Gemini's eavesdropping bug. So picture this scenario. You're driving, you're casually chatting with your passenger about, a new Italian restaurant you want to visit. And suddenly, your car's Gemini assistant decides this conversation is a direct voice command and just starts searching for or actually calling the restaurant. No way, right? Well, Gemini currently has this wildly frustrating continuous listening bug, where instead of shutting off after answering a query like it's supposed to, it just keeps listening to every single sound in the car. The good news? This issue seems completely isolated to Android Auto, likely due to some clunky integration issues with car audio systems rather than the Gemini AI itself. The temporary fix for now? Just go into your settings and manually switch your default assistant back to the classic Google Assistant until they patch it. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, the Ethereum versus Solana showdown. The blockchain war is definitely heating up. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is these impartial insights from SharpLink CEO Joseph Shalom, who recently sat down to evaluate Ethereum against the rising star Solana. Just look at the sheer contrast in the data between these two giants. On one hand, you have Solana's blistering speed, roughly 3,000 transactions per second, with transaction fees at a tiny fraction of a single penny. On the other hand, you have Ethereum's massive, undeniable dominance in infrastructure and trust. Ethereum boasts over 900,000 active validators, compared to Solana's roughly 800. It has over 1 million developers and a staggering $60 billion in total value locked, compared to Solana's $5 billion. So we're really looking at two totally different value propositions here. Recently, critics have claimed that Ethereum has a bit of a cultural problem and lacks initial flexibility, pointing to Solana as the clearly better choice for developers. And to be fair, Solana absolutely dominates in areas like NFTs and gaming purely because of that high speed and low cost. However, Shalom argues that this is a pretty superficial view. He points out impartially that Ethereum's true strength lies in its battle-tested security and true decentralization. This is achieved through incredible geographic, software, and economic diversity across its massive node network. For him, that infrastructure makes Ethereum the undisputed king of long-term sustainability and the go-to choice for serious, highly secure projects. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. We've seen billions of dollars flowing right back into Bitcoin. We've got AI agents seamlessly paying our bills, and we're watching massive blockchains battle it out for global dominance. But at the exact same time, we've seen the dark web selling network-destroying malware for pocket change and critical bugs hiding right there in our everyday operating systems. The opportunity out there is absolutely boundless, but the risk is profound. So I'll leave you with this. As this wild future arrives faster than we can even write the laws for it, are your devices and your daily digital habits truly secure enough for tomorrow? Double-check those updates, stay vigilant, and keep learning. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.